Heyo, it's Miss Taylor back at it again with another day of map vocabulary. Today we have 12 awesome words all about story elements. Our first word is short story. You can find this word at the bottom of page 7. A short story is a story with a theme and events, but it is much shorter than a novel. So, examples could be A Christmas Carol, The Cat in the Hat, Hansel and Gretel. Any story that's shorter than a thick novel, a thick book, but it still has those elements. It has a theme or a lesson that is learned, and events, so things that happen. Now, can you think of any other short stories? Now we are going to look at the word setting. This is right above short story on page 7. We've talked about the setting of books before, so on your own, write down a definition for this word setting. Your definition might have looked a little something like this: the time and place where a story takes place. Notice how I did not just say where a story takes place, I also said the time that it takes place. If a story is set in New York City, it's going to be very different in 2017 than it would be if it was 1917. So the setting is not just the place, it is also the time that it takes place. So if this was not part of your definition, please put it in there now. Next, in your packet, write the setting of the book you are currently reading. So the time and place of your book that you are reading. We are now going to look at the word plot. This is on the page before, on page 6. The plot is the main events of a story. So it includes the problem and events that lead to the problem being solved. So the plot is basically just what happens in the story. Your job now is to write the plot of Running Out of Time in your packet in that third column. We are going to go back now to page 7 and look for the word sequence. So basically, the sequence is the order that events occur. So it's the order that a story might take place. First, Jessie realizes that everyone gets sick. Then her mom asks her to go out and find the medicine from Mr. Neely. Then she goes out, she escapes Clifton. Next, she discovers that the man who said he's Mr. Neely isn't really the man who's going to help. And then she calls a news conference, gets the help that she needs, and finally they go in and save all the people in Clifton. That is the order that the events occur in Running Out of Time. That is the sequence of the story. Your job now is to write the sequence of the events you did this morning. So here's mine. First, I woke up. Second, I brushed my teeth. Third, I washed my face. Now it's your turn. Write the sequence of the events you did this morning. Now please turn to the top of page 3 to find the word develop. The word develop is to make clearer over time by giving more details. Here's an example of the word develop being used in a sentence. As the story develops, we learn Clifton's men wanted them to die. So it's saying that as the story goes on, as it develops, the idea of the story gets clearer. We know more about the story as it goes on, as it develops. Now you are going to think about a book that you have read. As the story develops, or as the story goes on, what do you know more information about? What becomes clearer? So finish this sentence to your partner about a book you have read. As the story develops, we are now going to be talking about the story arc. This story arc word is not in your packet, but we are going to be talking about the different parts of the story arc. So this may be something you have seen before. It is the general outline of how most books happen. So at the beginning of most books, there's some introduction, you learn background information, you learn the things that you need to know about the story later on. Then you have the rising action. So this is where events start getting a little bit more intense. There's suspense that is being built until you reach this very top point here, which is the climax. It is the most exciting part of the story. There's usually a problem that they're trying to solve. It's everything in the story is leading up to this climax. Then is the falling action. It's where the problem is being solved. The events are a little bit less exciting. Everything's kind of falling into place. Then at the very end, you have the resolution, where finally at the end of the story, the problem has been solved. So the first part of the story arc that we are going to be looking at is the rising action. This can be found on page 7. So the rising action is events in a story that create suspense and tension and lead up to the climax. So this is what we talked about, where things are getting more exciting. It's leading up to that big, crazy, intense moment at the climax. It's all leading up to it. So what your job is now is to draw the story arc in your packet in that third column and label the rising action. So where does this happen? On the story arc. You're drawing this now and labeling rising action. Now, this got a little bit cut off when I put the PowerPoint onto the computer. But your job is to describe the rising action of running out of time to your partner. What's the part in the story when things start getting a little bit more exciting, there's a little bit more suspense? Describe that part to your partner. Now we are going to go to the very top of that same page, page 7, and look at this word problem. So the problem is a struggle in a story. The whole story is about how the character tries to solve the problem. So basically, that's what a book is about. It's about some problem that the character tries to solve. In that third column, you'll see you have to write an example. So the example that you need to write is explain the problem in running out of time in your packet. In that third column, what is the problem that Jessie is trying to solve? Next, let's look at this word conflict. It is on page 2 in your packet. A conflict is a struggle between a character and something in the story. So an example could be, Jessie has a conflict with the fake Mr. Neely when he locks her in the room. She's struggling with this man. the pretend Mr. Neely, because she wants to get out, but he won't let him. It's a conflict in the story, something that she is having a hard time with. So this could be in your stories. It could be two characters having a conflict, some problem that needs to be solved, or it could be in your own life too. We have conflicts all the time. So an example for me would be I had a conflict when my brother would not give me my phone back. He took it and he wouldn't give it back to me. So finish this sentence to your partner. I had a conflict when. Now we're going to look at climax. This is at the very top of the same page, page 2. So the climax is the most intense, exciting, or important part of the story. So this is what the rising action is all leading up to this moment. It's the whole book is leading up to this one moment here, the climax. It's the really, really exciting part of the story. So your job first is draw the story arc in your packet and label the climax. Now, once again, the formatting got a little off here, but what this is supposed to say is describe the climax of running out of time to your partner. Now please turn to the next page, page 3, and find falling action. Falling action is the part of a story right after the climax. It is when the problem of the story gets solved. So after this big, exciting moment, things are kind of starting to get figured out. The problem's kind of starting to get solved. It's a little bit less exciting than that one big, exciting moment at the climax. So draw the story arc in your packet and label the falling action. Draw this in the third column and draw where the falling action would be. And now what this is supposed to say is describe the falling action of running out of time to your partner. The next word is going to be resolve. This is on page 7. So resolve is a verb and it means to find a solution to a problem. An example could be, the fight was resolved and they were friends again. In other words, the fight was solved and they were friends again. Resolve is going to go with resolution, which is right below that. So resolution is the noun for the verb resolve. So a resolution is how you resolve the problem, what is done. So a resolution is when the problem of a story is solved. So you have this big exciting moment with the problem, it starts to get figured out in the falling action, and then the very end you have the resolution. So draw the story arc in your packet and label the resolution. And then finally, this is supposed to say, describe the resolution of running out of time to your partner. And that will conclude our work today for vocabulary. You should now be able to do day 5's homework. So have fun with this awesome homework assignment about these amazing words all about stories.